Welcome to the Cisco show, ladies and gentlemen. Don't touch that remote. Got a great show here. It's all about the towns and the surrounding. And my guess is he writes books, but he does more than just write the books. He gets in there and talks to the people, walks the walk, and he comes up with. I have to remember what President Harry Truman says. What's new? The history we haven't read. And this is history. You'll enjoy it. You hear this one particular book here all about Norristown. I was just looking through it right now. There's so much about the churches and the trolley, the transportation, everything about Norristown that you really. I remember when the meters were only 3 cents. I'm sorry, the stamp for 3 cents, and the meters were 1 penny for 12 minutes. And 5 cents for 1 hour. So my guest today is Jack COLL, who makes frames. Like if you have a nice picture, pictures are memories, and you want to frame it with a nice frame, that's my man. Custom framing, 324 Fayette Street, Conshohocken. Jack COLL, welcome to the Cisco show. Got a lot to talk about. You are so interesting, you got so much knowledge. I don't know, Rock. I mean, you just got a bottle of weed. All right, tell me what's on the front burner, the back burner, what you got cooking, what's the latest?
Hank, it's a pleasure to be back. I thank you for welcoming me, and I want to talk about 2 new publications that we have coming out, but first I just want to revisit the fact that over the years, we've done books on Bridgeport, we've done books on Norristown, we've done books on Conshohocken. Right. I'm currently working on one on Valley Forge. This Norristown book here was very, very successful, probably one of our most successful books. It was published by Arcadia, and it just has an array of old-time Norristown, bringing back great memories for so many residents in Norristown. It became very popular.
Right.
So the Bridgeport books were just as popular, but I guess my knowledge tends to lean towards Conshohocken. Yeah, so it goes back to Conshohocken. And in Conshohocken, I think I've done 5 or 6 books on Conshohocken. Everything from the Arcadia-sized books up to these self-published books, these 8.5 by 11s. And these hardback books have been extremely popular because the residents can still identify with the locations. Although the buildings have changed, the businesses have changed, but they recognize the building. Some of them recognize the old businesses, if you would. So the books we have coming out, Hank, it's a 2-volume set, and it's going to be an 8.5 by 11 like this. This particular book has 450 pages. Volume 1 will have 525 pages.
2 separate books?
2 separate books. Volume 2 will have 550 pages. And the way that came about is the fact that I sat down and started writing these books in 2011. So it's been 6 years of research writing these books. I started in 2011, and I just started writing chapter, put it aside. I'd write a chapter and put it aside. Yeah. So at some point I stopped and I thought, how many pages do I have in this book? Yeah. Well, at that point I had over 900 pages. So I couldn't put that in 1 volume. I decided to make it 2 volumes. So that's how that came about. Both volumes combined will have over 1,600 photographs in them. Wow. It tells a lot of history. Well, it tells a lot of great stories. Right. So, and I've just leaned back into my photo library to pull these old photos out. Although some of the photos range from the 1880s till 2017. So, you know, we have the St. Patty's Day parade events type of thing in there.
Yeah, that's in Conshohocken.
That's in Conshohocken. But we
stole it from Norristown.
We did steal it from Norristown. So, but it's very popular in Conshohocken.
Yes,
it's very popular.
Well, so, they got more bar rooms down there.
More tap rooms for the boys. You're not trying to say the Irish do a little drinking, are you? I mean, come on. So anyway, we're extremely proud of the product, and we're going to do everything from tell the story of the trolley cars in Conshohocken to one of the verses that I love is Murder, Mystery, and Scandal. It's a
Oh, yeah.
great,
Well, you
great
gotta add
chapter.
a little salt and pepper.
I've also written for what is going to be, for the very first time in Conshohocken, a chapter on the history of the African Americans in Conshohocken. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing that chapter.
That's interesting.
Now, if kids from school today, particularly in Conshohocken, say, hey, how did the African Americans get to Conshohocken? Who are the African Americans in Conshohocken?
Right.
If they were to check, there is no history.
No.
I've written, and other histories have written about the Italians and the Irish and the Polish and the Germans, but never has there been a chapter or a history
The
on
only
the
one,
African
Charlie
American.
Blackson.
Bloxon, he's a great
Right.
historian, yes, but he hasn't done one on Conshohocken, so I'm particularly proud of that chapter there. And I think one of the more popular chapters is going to be on the urban redevelopment of Conshohocken, and this would probably interest other communities such as Norristown, because many times I've gotten the question, how can Norristown do what Conshohocken did?
Yeah.
And nobody realizes
Well, you
that-
were a councilman down there. weren't you?
Absolutely. And nobody realizes, Hank, that urban redevelopment in Conshohocken started in 1958. Okay? This didn't just pop up overnight.
No,
This
no.
has been more than half a century in the making.
Right.
And it takes great planning, and it takes great
Cooperation.
sacrifice by the residents. Now, Norristown has a little bit going for it that they can build off of. The new exit ramp coming off the turnpike. But residents had to sacrifice with their highways being messed up. Some of the residents lose homes. For Norristown to redevelop, you're years away. But good council people can make it happen.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
and they've made some
definitely.
good things happen in Norristown. They just haven't honed in on the
Right.
total urban redevelopment concept. And I think they're good. But in Conshohocken, our book will show pictures and tell stories from the 1930s and 1940s and show a thriving business section in Conshohocken. From 2nd Avenue down in 1940, we had 230 retail outlets. From 2nd Avenue down to the bridge, one to Hector Street and Elm Street, 230 retail outlets. And then came the steel crash.
Yeah.
The steel crash,
When you had-
following World War II, it came out, and obviously Japan took over the steel industry. And in the 1950s, jobs throughout this country declined, including Norristown, Bridgeport, Phoenixville, even Ambler. But Conshohocken took a hit because we were a town built on the steel industry.
Yeah.
And so the jobs started
Allenwood
declining.
Steel and
Exactly.
Copper Steel.
Allenwood Steel went belly up in 1977, but in the end, they had maybe 800 employees. And their prime in 1920, the Allenwood Steel Company had well over 5,000 working jobs. And that was one company. When you put in Lee Tires and the Schuylkill Iron Works and Philly Iron and Industry
Right.
and all these manufacturing plants along the river in Conshohocken, Conshohocken and West Conshohocken needed over 12,000 working people. Now, the town of Conshohocken only had 7,000 residents then, including women and children.
Right.
So we didn't
they
have
can't
enough.
go to work.
We didn't have enough people to work the jobs.
Right.
Jobs were so plentiful, it was unbelievable.
Right.
When the steel mill dried up, towns like Conshohocken ran into problems. The residents started leaving town.
Right.
The downtown shopping industries, Conshohocken, Norristown, Pottstown, they were the shopping capitals of Montgomery
Yeah.
County. They all declined rapidly
Wow.
due to the fact, number one, people left town. Number two, in the 30s and 40s, residents didn't own automobiles. Now all of a sudden, with the post-war boom,
Yeah.
everybody owned automobiles. Number three is people, once air conditioning came about in a big way, it opened up the shopping malls. Free parking. You didn't have to walk in the rain, you didn't have to walk in the heat, and you didn't have to walk in the
Yeah,
cold.
right.
So all these contributed to downtown everywhere
Right.
declining. Well, next thing you know, in Conshohocken, storefronts were boarded up. Buildings started burning to the
Closing
ground,
down, right.
looking for insurance money, okay? At one stretch in the early 70s, Conshohocken had 12 fires at these closed up businesses in 12 nights.
Fires.
Fires, looking for insurance money.
Yeah.
12 fires in 12 nights. They were just burning away. So downtown Conshohocken became so dilapidated
Yeah.
that eventually the urban redevelopment process came into view. And they started purchasing properties, demolishing properties, and from there, they started the rebuilding
Almost
offices.
the same thing like in South Philly, like the South Street. That was folded up one story.
Yeah, for many years,
Now,
yes.
they fixed it up and they call it Society Hill.
Absolutely.
And you got to pay $1,000 for rental.
Well, you got to pay thousands of dollars in Conshohocken now, too.
Yeah,
Trust me.
muckety-muck.
There's not a lot of people happy with it. So we do a chapter in this new book on industry, where we show pictures of the industries that thrived there for so many years. We've also done chapters, of course, on residents. We've done chapters. We did a chapter on prominent females, which I found extremely interesting. Everyday Conshohocken women, if you will, who did extraordinary things, not only in Conshohocken, but throughout the country and throughout the world. For instance, we tell a story in both the old book and new book about a woman down on Hector Street. And back in the 1920s, she had one of them old cast iron ovens. The problem with the cast iron ovens is it got real hot in the back and not so hot in the front. So halfway through the cooking process, you had to reach in and turn the tray of food around so it would cook on both sides. Now this woman had so many burns on her arms from reaching into that oven. She, in fact, a woman from Hector Street in Conshohocken, invented and patented the rotisserie oven.
Oh my God.
And she sold the patent to the major leading oven maker in Baltimore. The old rotisserie ovens, the original ones, had a crank handle on the outside.
Yeah, right.
And you cranked it and the wheel turned inside to bring your food around to you.
Right.
So, which was extraordinary, okay? We have other extraordinary females in the borough who went not only Conshohocken-wide, but nationwide as well, with some of the things that they did, including one story that I love called the Flying Grandmother, who became the first woman, I think, in the country as a 64-year-old grandmother to get her pilot's license.
Oh,
and
my God.
Just an interesting story.
Patco Field.
Well, she flew out of Patco Field before moving out to Chester County, but she loved flying, and to get a license at 64 years old for a female back in the 1940s was really something special. So anyway, these are all stories that we tell, and so on and so forth. So, and then
Conshohocken was great on sports, too.
Boxers, yes, Conshohocken has a, well, of course I did a book on Conshohocken sports.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell you that a couple of our great athletes came out of Conshohocken just briefly. Johnny McBride, for instance.
Pepe Camel.
Pepe Camel, he was an Norristown boy.
Black
He was an
football
Norristown
player.
boy.
Did he play for Norristown or Conshohocken?
He played for Conshohocken. He was ours. He was ours. He played professional ball in Conshohocken.
Yeah. And then there was a guy
Stand out in Norristown.
the LAM had Carmen Scotty. He played one of them on the line. And he get in there to tackle, and he used to get so mad, he used to take his helmet off.
John McBride was a Conshohocken boy, went to Syracuse University.
Whitey Miller.
He set records at Syracuse, nationwide records at Syracuse University. Some of them still stand today, back in the 20s. He played on the very first New York Giants football team, ran out of the backfield with Jim Thorpe. Okay. In 1927, Johnny McBride was the MVP of the NFL over Harold Red Green.
Conshohocken guy.
Conshohocken guy. Whitey Miller, when you talk about great athletes, Whitey Miller is the greatest athlete to ever come out of Conshohocken.
Yeah.
Whitey Miller signed contracts in 3 professional sports. He signed contracts to play with the Philadelphia Phillies. He signed with Bert Bell to play with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he played professional basketball in a Canadian league. Okay, this was a talented guy. He stood about 5'4", couldn't weigh more than 120 pounds.
And he opened a sporting goods store in Norristown.
Yes, he
Great
did.
guy.
And so I read the contract that he signed with Bert Bell to play with the Philadelphia Eagles. The contract stated that Whitey Miller would get $100 a game, plus he was guaranteed an off-season job pumping gas in Philadelphia. That's the way the contract worked back then. This guy,
Give him a job in Clark.
we also, of course, we touched on, in the new book, we touched on West Conshohocken. Okay, West
Well, that's
Conshohocken
developing too,
has a
right?
lot of rich history and developing and so on and so forth. We've did a chapter on music, Conshohocken music. You know, we've had great musicians come out of Conshohocken or affiliated with Conshohocken.
Singers.
Well, Bobby Rydell hung out in Conshohocken because his grandmother lived on 3rd Avenue. So he would kind of get out of Philadelphia, you should get peace and quiet out in the suburbs back then, okay? We have Eddie Shermansky, who was one of the founding members of the group The Tramps. They did the song Disco Inferno, and Turn Back the Night, and so on, and the Tramps still travel around together, but Eddie Shermansky was one of the originals, and he still lives in Conshohocken. He's a lawyer today. We've also done chapters on Soapbox Derby. Conshohocken,
Oh, yeah, you had that.
Conshohocken for more than 60 years has run a Soapbox Derby. In the 80s, they were recognized
Still
twice.
going on, right?
Yes. They were recognized twice as running the best race in the country, which is a pretty big deal, okay? We certainly did a chapter on police, did a chapter on schools, did a chapter on weddings. We've done, so we've touched on every aspect of Conshohocken in these new books. And again, my son and I have worked on them. We're very proud of them. And
He helps you.
he helped us. So, like I said, the first book will have, while this book has 450 pages, the first volume is going to have 525 pages. That book will be released in the late spring, the last week of May, first week of June. The second volume has 550 pages, which will be released in late fall, either last week of November, first week of December. So both books will have pictures in color and black and white.
How many pictures?
There's going to be a total of over 1,600 pictures. This is the cover of the new book.
Oh, right here.
Now, is what you'll enjoy about this cover, you in particular anyway, is what you're going to enjoy is the fellow with the hat on is Dominic Gambone, who owns Conshohocken Bakery.
Oh, he's the greatest guy. I brought some pizza here. Not pizza,
You
tomato
brought
pie.
tomato pie and rolls and whatever else. Dominic
That's
Gambone,
Dominic?
that's Dominic with the hat.
Oh,
And
my God.
one of the chapters I'm most proud of, I did,
Italian bakery. There, I was there.
absolutely.
Picked up some
So,
rolls and
the-
pizza pie. What do they call it?
One of the chapters I'm most proud of is a chapter we did on family businesses, okay? And I honed in on about a dozen different businesses and people who actually immigrated to this country from another country.
Now, you know, on March the 19th is St. Joseph's Day.
Yep.
And Dominic at the Conshohocken Bakery at 10:45, he will have one whole table full of all traditional St. Joseph bread, and they call the St. Joseph table. And that all came about years ago in Sicily, where there was no rain and nothing was growing, and the people were starting to starve because there was nothing was growing. But the only thing that was growing was the fava bean, and everybody was cooking fava beans, eating fava beans, you know. And finally, they prayed to St. Joseph, if it would only rain, we would feed the poor, we would make a big table for everybody to eat, you know. Please, St. Joseph, give us rain. And on the 19th of March, it rained. And so now they have this tradition where they have the St. Joseph table with all kinds of things. And Dominic Gambone of the Conshohocken Bakery lays it out, and Monsignor San Germano will come and bless the bread as it comes out of the ovens. And last year we filmed it with my friend Tony. I have a lot of trouble pronouncing these Italian names. Grzinski. Did I say it right? Oh, yeah. And we filmed it. So
Yeah, right.
Conshohocken has a lot. I mean, my brother used to get down there and train with his sparring partners down there. A lot of, I could say Conshohocken is like a little North town. Believe me.
One of the chapters we did a chapter, it's actually part 1 and part 2 in both books, on corner stores and family-owned businesses. People love the old corner stores.
Right,
They
right,
disappeared
right.
nowadays.
We had a lot of them in
They were
Norristown.
staples. And I picked out about a dozen families who all immigrated to this country and opened up a family business somewhere in Conshohocken. And Don Gambone was one of them. And the amazing thing about Don Gambone is he came to Conshohocken in the early 70s when everybody else was leaving Conshohocken.
Yeah.
And Dominic came to Conshohocken at a time when we were at our most depressed in Conshohocken, and he took a chance on Conshohocken. And he opened his business, and the Gambone family has done nothing but contribute to the well-being of Conshohocken since they got there.
Great.
They donate to everything, they help everybody out, and it's a great welcomed family into the borough.
Right.
So this is a picture that's typical of some of what you'll read in a book with some of the stories we tell.
Right.
I don't know for the audience out there, particularly, I don't know about the Norristown audience, but a young lady who taught at Plymouth White Marsh High School for 30 years, Libby Rapport, Mrs. Rapport taught there. Her father was Ed and Shirley Weiner, and they owned and operated Shirley's Market in Conshohocken for many years. And her father came in from Russia. He immigrated from Russia. And the family had such a tough time getting out of Russia back in the day, okay?
That days.
And we tell several stories about people who struggled to get out of their country, struggled to get to America, wound up in Conshohocken with nothing. They had a suitcase with some undergarments and a pocket full
With
of
rope
gold.
tied around it so it wouldn't open.
That's it. And how they came in, opened the business, established that business, and then proceeded to help hundreds of families over the years, okay? Because when the steel mills got cut back to 4 days a week, families were having trouble making it. And they would go to these local markets and run a tab until they could pay that tab off on Friday or at the end of the month. And these people were absolute heroes. These people, these immigrants who owned these markets were heroes in the community for helping these families along. And they were pretty special. It's a pretty special bunch. They all came with a trade. You know, whether it was shoemakers, whatever it was, absolutely. Mike Mastercola, I tell a wonderful story, and Mike owned a deli for many years, and he sells pulled pork, okay?
Yeah.
And I tell a wonderful story on Mike Mastercola, and numerous others. So it's very, very interesting to see. Of course, we did a small piece on military, because Conshohocken is so defined with its military. And just briefly, if I can, and after the First World War, Conshohocken was recognized by the federal government in 1918 as having sent more men and women off to war than any other community in America per capita. Per capita. Okay? And the federal government honored Conshohocken by having a merchant marine ship built at the Chester Shipyard in 1920 and called it the Conshohocken. Okay? More men and women than any other community in America per capita. That's saying something. In World War II, Conshohocken, 1 out of every 7 residents served in the military. West Conshohocken, 1 out of every 6 served in the military.
They were like different nationalities, Irish, Polish, Italian.
They were all brothers and brother. When they went to war, they were all brothers.
But you know what, I just want to tell you that when we're still talking about Dominic,
Sure. Happy to talk about
on the March the 19th,
Yeah.
at 10:45, they're going to have a little ceremony with all the food. People come in and will buy bread and everything, and some of the bread will be in like crosses and different things. But everybody will get a fava bean. The fava bean became something that everybody, that's what they survived with fava bean. So they say this is the lucky bean. So as long as you carry a fava bean, you'll never be hungry, you'll never be broke. And I always carry a fava bean in my pocket. I am not broke, and I'm not hungry. So
Good man.
so
Good man, Hank.
come down to Conshohocken Bakery on the 19th at 10:45 a.m. in the morning. Go ahead.
Now, Dominic's a good representative of the community, and this is why he's on the cover of this book, because we thought that much of him for what he does in the community. So this picture, by the way, that you're looking at on the cover of this book was taken in 1956, just before he left Italy.
And he's posing the store right there.
Posing with his brothers. And we superimposed the store behind it. Okay, just as a representative of who Dominic is, what Dominic is, and so on and so forth. We've also done chapters on the houses of Conshohocken, where we touched on a number of houses, particularly some of them that might carry some history with them. So that was kind of interesting. So,
well, let me ask you one thing.
yes.
How did you get started in this kind of business? Huh?
Well, I'm not quite sure how I got started. I think the history bug bit me years ago, Hank, when Conshohocken, the lower end, it was leveled. In the early 80s, there was nothing there. It was desolate.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, they cleared out 25 acres of ground for this urban redevelopment project. And I remember down there taking pictures just of nothing being there, and I thought it was kind of cool because it used to be all these buildings and structures, and now there's nothing there. And I thought, I want to get pictures of this because my children were young. And I thought, I want them to know what this looked like when they were kids, because they may not remember it. And then I got to thinking, well, I should really have some pictures of what it was like before it became vacant. And that's what started me on my history plug. That and a fellow by the name of Dr. Joseph Leary. Dr. Joseph Leary. He was a dentist in Conshohocken. And he was part of the Historical Society. And Doc Leary would go around maybe once or twice a year with these slides. He would have these little slide shows, and he'd show 30 or 40 pictures at these little gatherings that we would have. And it piqued my interest in the history of Conshohocken. And I became very good friends with Doc, and he taught me a lot over the years. And so for years, I don't do so much anymore, although I gave one a week ago. I go around doing slideshows for the general public. And I have 2 slide projectors with 2 screens. And I do a lot of then and now. What was there then and what's there now. And it's a pretty amazing story.
Yesterday, today, tomorrow.
That's it, brother. So like I said, I've cut back on doing that somewhat. I have probably somewhere around 35 or 40,000 slides.
When do you sleep?
Very little. Very little. So, but yeah, we certainly, I've always enjoyed the history of, not always, but I guess for the past 40 years, I've managed to take on a photo collection between my picture taking for the daily newspapers, the Times Herald and whatnot. And so I've accumulated these pictures over the years. So we love doing it. We'd appreciate anybody that'll tell you how to make the purchase of this book. And I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks. Thank you very much, Hank.
Okay. We only got 30 seconds, so I just want to let you know this book here in Norristown. I'm in this book quite a bit, you know, with the crossing guards and Norristown Police. So, Jack, thank you so much for coming here.
Always a pleasure.
Now, where are you located?
We're at 324 Fayette Street in Conshohocken. We have a custom framing shop. Feel free to stop by and see us. It's just talk history. I do a lot of talking history there, so it's a good place to stop, a good social place.
And you're teaching my daughter, Joanne, photography, and we want to get a couple ideas on how to take pictures and what kind of, how to preserve them and all. Just stop in, you know. So, I enjoy this. I got books here, you got everything going on for you, my buddy. And we have some Conshohocken Bakery pizza here for the students, and you can join us too. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for allowing us to come into your home, and I hope this was educational and also to give you some ideas on, you know, if you want to walk on water, you got to know where the rocks are. Okay, so God bless each and every one. Adios, amigos. Right? It's for your health, and you got your health. You got everything. Allah Zulu.